On September 5th, 2023, 28-year-old Petra Novakova from Prague entered a forest in central Bohemia. It was her first attempt at bivvy camping, sleeping outdoors without a tent, only a bag under the open sky. She wanted escape from city life, to find peace in silence. She was not prepared for what was ahead. After 4 hours of walking, Petra searched for a place to rest. On the side of the trail, she found a swarm of flies over a carcass. At first, she thought it was a dog, but it was a young wild boar, lifeless, already swarmed by insects. The discovery unsettled her. Where there was a piglet, a mother could be near, but the sun was gone. She had no choice but to stop close by. Petra laid out her sleeping bag. She ate a quick meal, then stretched out beneath the darkening canopy. The forest was quiet. Birdsong faded, replaced by the hum of insects. She gazed at the sky as the first stars appeared, unaware that danger was already moving closer. A scream shattered the quiet. A wild boar, close. Petra froze inside her bag, panic rising. She had no weapon, no protection. Another roar echoed through the dark, closer this time. Her pulse quickened as the night air filled with heavy grunts. Her headlamp beam cut the darkness. 15 meters away stood a massive sow, and with her, 5 piglets. The animal's body was broad, her tusks catching the light, her stance threatening. The piglet squealed and rooted in the grass, while the mother lowered her head, eyes fixed on Petra. She panicked. She rushed to the nearest tree, but the trunk was smooth, branches too high. She slipped, bark tearing under her hands, and crashed back to the ground. The sow roared, hooves pounding the earth, and charged. Desperate, Petra sprinted to another tree just meters away, an oak with thick branches within reach. She leapt, fingers clawing at the bark, pulling herself upward as the sow thundered behind her. Her shoes slipped, her legs scraped raw, but she managed to haul herself onto the lowest branch, just as the animal slammed into the trunk below. The impact sent a violent shudder through the tree, nearly knocking her loose. The sow circled, roaring, froth spilling from her mouth. Every few seconds she rammed the trunk, the shockwaves rattling Petra's grip. Leaves rained down. The branch creaked under her weight. Her arms burned, her chest heaved, her heart pounded as she clung tighter. The piglets squealed below, agitated by their mother's fury. The sow reared up, striking the bark with her tusks, ripping grooves deep into the wood. The tree shook violently with each blow. Petra pressed herself flat against the branch, praying it would not snap. Then came silence. The sow stood motionless in the dark, eyes glowing in the beam of Petra's lamp. Long minutes passed. Finally, the animal turned. The piglets followed, their shapes melting into the forest shadows. Petra stayed in the tree for the rest of the night. She did not sleep. Every sound, a crack of a branch, a grunt in the distance, sent terror through her body. Her hands cramped, her legs went numb, but she dared not climb down. At dawn, Petra descended carefully. Her sleeping bag lay torn in the grass, the ground trampled with hoofprints. She grabbed what she could and ran, never once looking back. She had survived, shaken, exhausted, but alive. But for others, nights like this end differently. The wild gives no guarantees, and when instinct strikes, the forest decides who walks away. On October 12th, 2019, 35-year-old Hildegard Meyer from Bavaria set out for a quiet morning of mushroom picking in the Black Forest of southwest Germany. It was a tradition she had followed since childhood: a basket, a small knife, and the cool stillness of autumn woods. The air was crisp, the ground damp with fallen leaves, and the forest seemed safe. As she wandered off the main trail, Hildegard focused on patches of moss and fallen logs where chanterelles often grew. Birdsong echoed above, and for a moment the world felt peaceful. But peace in the forest can end without warning. From a thicket came the sound of heavy steps. Expecting a deer, she turned. Instead, a massive wild boar stepped into the clearing. Its coarse fur bristled, tusks glinting in the dim light, eyes locked on her. Hildegard froze, clutching her basket, then tried to back away slowly. The animal lowered its head, grunted sharply, and charged. The impact struck like a hammer. Tusks slashed her thigh, tearing through fabric and flesh, sending her crashing into the mud. Her basket spilled, mushrooms scattering across the ground. She screamed, but the sound only fueled the beast's fury. The boar wheeled around and struck again, tusks ripping across her arm as she tried to shield her face. The force spun her sideways, pain searing through her body. Her small knife flew from her grip. She was defenseless. Desperate, she crawled toward a fallen log and tried to hide behind it. The boar rammed it again and again, shaking the ground, splinters spraying into her skin. Her breaths came short, her hands slick with blood and soil. With every ounce of strength left, Hildegard staggered toward a nearby spruce. She jumped, grabbed a low branch, and hauled herself upward. Her legs slipped, her torn arms burned, but she climbed just as the boar smashed into the trunk below. The impact shook the tree, bark flying as tusks carved deep grooves. The animal circled and rammed repeatedly, foam spilling from its jaws, its rage unbroken. Leaves rained down as Hildegard clung tighter, chest heaving, heart pounding in terror. For long minutes the attack continued until finally the boar grunted one last time and turned back into the shadows of the forest. Shaking, covered in blood, Hildegard stayed in the branches. Every sound, a snapping twig, a rustling leaf, felt like the boar returning. Her legs went numb, her arms cramped, but she dared not climb down. When hikers finally found her nearly an hour later, she was pale, trembling, and still gripping the branch with both hands. Emergency responders carried her out on a stretcher, her body torn with deep cuts and her thigh badly wounded. Doctors confirmed she would survive, but the scars would remain. For Hildegard, what began as a calm morning tradition ended as a fight for her life. She survived, shaken, scarred, but alive. But the forests of Germany carry the same reminder as wilderness everywhere. The wild gives no guarantees, and when instinct strikes, the outcome belongs to the wild. On September 3rd, 2022, 30-year-old Daniel Harris set out on a morning run near Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. The trail cut through tall grass and stands of aspen, a place he used often for training. The early air was sharp, the ground damp from overnight rain, and Daniel felt calm as he pushed his pace. Halfway into the run, the rhythm broke. From the brush came a noise, heavy, uneven, nothing like the light step of a deer. Before he could react, a wild boar crashed onto the path, bristled and furious, tusks flashing white in the dim light. It went straight for him. Daniel bolted, legs pounding, heart slamming in his chest. Behind him came the drum of hooves, a harsh roar that grew louder with every stride. The gap closed fast. He swerved into the trees, branches whipping his arms, but the animal was built for speed and power. Within moments, it struck him from behind. The force hurled him forward into the dirt. Pain ripped through his back as tusks tore across his shoulder. He rolled, gasping, trying to stand. The boar charged again, this time catching his thigh. Blood poured into the soil. Desperate, Daniel seized a thick branch and swung wildly, cracking it against the beast's snout. It staggered for a second, then came back with greater fury, grinding its tusks against the ground, ready for another attack. Daniel stumbled toward a shallow creek, dragging his injured leg. He splashed into the water, hauling himself up onto a fallen tree that lay across the bank. Clinging to the rough bark, he pulled himself out of reach as the boar slammed against the trunk below. For nearly 20 minutes, the animal circled, pacing, grunting, slamming its bulk into the wood, foam spilling from its jaws. Daniel's arms shook as he held on, blood dripping steadily into the current. Every breath came ragged, every second stretched into eternity. Finally, the sound of an ATV echoed through the forest. The boar froze, ears twitching, then turned and vanished into the undergrowth. Hunters found Daniel clinging to the log, pale and half-conscious. They rushed him to hospital, where doctors treated deep gashes and heavy blood loss. He survived, but the scars across his body were permanent reminders. The trail he once trusted for peace had turned into an arena of survival. In Alberta, wild boars have been called an unstoppable invasion. For Daniel Harris, that invasion came charging out of the brush and nearly ended his life.